Good morning, EDU 428 students. The purpose of this video today is to provide some feedback on some recent work and then to discuss the upcoming focus for week 5 as we enter week 5. So you recently completed your case study from the Paul Gorski book, and I just wanted to say that these were really well done overall. The purpose of the assignment was to read that case study and consider carefully what could take place or what decisions could be made in the best interest of the students in those classes. And these were immigrant students, so students that are learning English as a second language, also coming from culturally different backgrounds than their than the cultures of their school. Excuse me. So you needed to draw from the concepts from Sensoi and D'Angelo, including identity, culture, and socialization, and then fully respond to those questions at the end of the case study. So the strongest papers, the strongest little essays were well organized, right? So they drew from those, they applied the concepts accurately and thoughtfully. They also thoroughly and in detail responded to those questions at the end of the case. In terms of organization, and you'll be thinking about this because you'll have another analysis paper coming up soon. An organized paper at the grand, in the sort of grand perspective, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. So there's an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. It has a framework, right? And then at the paragraph level, the paragraphs have a topic sentence and examples and a concluding sentence. So sort of like mirrors the organization of the paper itself. And finally, those paragraphs have transitions between ideas. And then at the sentence level, those ideas are clear, right? So one of the things that made these papers strong and just demonstrated improvement was, around the clarity of ideas. Another criteria was the mechanics in the paper. So mechanics really refers to readability. So one of the things that I suggest that all my students do is engage in 2 strategies in the editing process. So before you click submit, right, is to read your paper aloud. Read it aloud. It's something I do in my own work. Read it aloud, and then you'll catch parts of your writing that you may not normally notice when you just read it in your head, because we're inclined as readers and writers to repair the mistakes that are in our work. That's sort of just a practice that most of us do. But when you read it aloud, you actually see what the words are on the page. Secondly, I suggest that you read your work backwards. So I know that sounds awkward, but the purpose for doing that is so that you don't engage in those fix-it strategies, right? And you are able to notice spelling mistakes or punctuation issues. Missing words is another one, or run-on sentences, because you're not making it make sense when you're reading it in your head. So just some suggestions. The last thing I wanted to say about the papers, and again, these are some points that I urge you to consider as you advance in the course, but also aspects that I saw great improvement about with thinking about the course of your work in the semester, is the use of APA for your citations in the paper and for your reference page, and then formatting in general. So just as a quick reminder, when you quote an author directly, then, or authors, you'll put in parentheses the last name, the year, comma, the year of the publication, comma, the page number, so page, and then the number of the page, and then close a parenthetical. That's for a direct quotation, right? The words that are exactly in the text. For what's called an indirect quotation, right? You want to demonstrate to your audience that this concept derives from this author, then all you'll put in that parenthetical, in that citation, in that reference, excuse me, is the author's last name, comma, year. You don't need to put a page number for an indirect quotation. So that's just a quick thing to think about. I want to just share one point in terms of APA, because I know some students are coming from other areas out in terms of their content areas. So maybe you're used to MLA style, or maybe you're used to Chicago style, or maybe you're just not used to referencing anything at all. So let me just say this really quickly. So the APA, education is part of the social sciences, and in social sciences we use the American Psychological Association as for our style guidelines. These are sort of the rules that all social sciences use, and we're using these rules in terms of formatting and citation for two reasons. One reason is to credit ideas appropriately to those authors, those scholars, those teachers, all the folks that engage in writing and publication. We want to credit those ideas appropriately. It's just the just thing to do. Secondly, we also cite correctly in terms of our reference page, because we want our audience, we want our readers to be able to locate the full text for them to read themselves. So that's why including the year, the correct year, the volume, the page number, all of that stuff is important, because if you don't have that information, then as a reader, you're not able to locate that text, that full text. It makes it really hard to find a piece. There's another part in terms of APA that is sort of less commonly understood, and this is around bias. And I think this is important because it connects to the content in the course. So another guideline in APA that's not about referencing and that's not about formatting is a commitment to bias-free communication. Well, what do I mean by that? Bias-free communication is speech or writing that attempts to include people of all ethnicities, gender identities, sexual orientations, religious affiliation, abilities, ages, obviously racial groups, by communicating in a way that makes no assumptions about the receiver of this communication. So what I'm saying here is that, as educators in an increasingly diverse world, and in particular those of you who are working on your ESL certification, and a part of your focus will be to work with students across linguistic diversity. An important part of communicating your communication in a bias-free manner is to make sure that you're engaging effectively and in ways that do not offend the people that you're talking to, or the people that you're talking about or writing about. So I want you to just keep in mind that this aspect of bias-free communication in your writing, and know also that the work that you're doing in this course, right, is helping you develop that awareness about concepts like identity, culture, socialization, prejudice, discrimination, oppression, that can emerge within our language, in our language usage. So we're working we're working not just to police language, we're working on our awareness of these topics, and then we're in our writing developing the expertise to convey a perspective that does not isolate or exclude or generalize, right, a group of people. So just keep in mind that piece about bias-free communication, because it's very relevant to the course. All right, so You have just completed the last discussion board that was from the Sensoi and D'Angelo chapter, and those were also, for the most part, very well constructed, and I really thought that the practices that folks described that they're already engaged in their classrooms, or that they found in the additional resources, were thoughtful and useful. So I hope that everyone gets a chance to read others' posts to be able to come up with a list of practical strategies that you can engage in your classroom, whether it's right now or in the future, that support the diverse, racially, culturally, and linguistically diverse students in your classroom by challenging biases. Okay, so what the upcoming reading is from Angela Valenzuela. It's a article from that's based on a book. The article is Subtractive Schooling, and the article is focused on the schooling experiences of a group of Mexican American youth. And here again, we're drawing from concepts that align with your reading that you've already done in Sensoi and D'Angelo, particularly around deep culture and school culture and the tensions between those two, and how students have to work to sort of navigate those tensions, and the challenges of navigating those tensions, and also the consequences when that process is not difficult and not supported sufficiently by the schools. So a very, very important read. This is a germinal text for all educators, particularly those who are working on ESL certification. One resource that I've provided with you is a student-created Prezi that I highly suggest after you read the Valenzuela article, then check out the Prezi by a group of students. The Prezi includes a talk that was given by Angela Valenzuela, so I think that will be very helpful to clarify some of the ideas. It's a short piece, but it's also complex. The readings that you've already done will help you navigate that piece. I think this Prezi is again, from a student voice, another way to support your understanding of the ideas that are conveyed in this article. Your assignment that's for this week is a very brief check for understanding. There are 3 questions, 2 multiple choice and 1 short answer. So here again, make sure you've done the reading. Take some time. It's due next Monday, so you have some time to do the reading, come back to it, and then complete the check for understanding. And I believe that is all for now. I have pushed back the mid-semester survey to next week. We'll be meeting in person next week on Monday the 26th, I believe. So we'll do that mid-semester survey in class. Okay, look forward to your reading your checks for understanding. Look forward to seeing you, and you'll get your discussion board feedback. Some of you have gotten already, and the rest of you will be getting it shortly. Okay, have a good day. Take care.